not even Aaron, whatever spirit you are, whatever consciousness you are, cleverly disguised as Aaron in this lifetime. And you, as your soul, say, okay, I learned this and this and this. It's kind of like, let's just say you're playing a video game and you learn this. Okay. I'm going to use Pac-Man because that's what I remember. Remember Pac-Man?
Mm,
Okay. So you play
the first
Pac-Man.
one, yeah.
That's me too. Me too. Not even misses. I stuck with the first one. So
Well, actually, I got to Pac-Man and Space Invader, and I never ever bothered looking at any of that stuff
yeah,
again
I
for the
was
rest of my
I was the
life.
Frogger Queen, so I'm really good at crossing the street now. I do. I really do. I think it saved my life a couple times here in LA. But so what I learned about the game is you learn the first level, blip 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 blip, crossing the street, and then you have three more frogs. You get three more lives. So if you blip, you get pissed off, or you're like, oh, I got another life. So you do it again, and you do it again, and then you get really good, and they keep changing the game. They keep changing it, and all of a sudden it's a little harder. Now
That
there's
sounds familiar.
okay, now there's a little serpent. Now there's a little serpent
Yeah,
crawling the
they keep
street,
changing the
and they keep
game.
changing the game.
In this,
And now, yes, and now the cars are moving faster crossing the street. If you know Frog.
okay, we're not.
No.
Is there a point to this in what you were trying to
Oh
say
yes,
before about the
very
incarnation?
much so, very
Okay.
much so. So just because you said you're having a hard time with it because you're putting it in different verbiage. So now there's a serpent crossing, and now the trucks are going faster. So now it's a very harder game to win because the stakes are raised. But because you're so good at the ones before, you're cleverly able to do it. But you do get killed a few times, and you have to keep. That's why the game is so interesting because it keeps changing. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now you're going to go play the game again, but you say, you know what? I got that one down. I got that down. Like I don't want to keep playing the same. What Pac-Man would stop if you just got really good at it and it never increased. So the game will say, okay, Aaron, if you really want to go down and play again. Yeah, I was fun. Looking back, it was really cool. Okay, well, we're going to raise the stakes a little bit. So let's see. You learned about compassion. You learned about da da da. Forgiveness. That's something you could probably learn more. Yeah, forgiveness. You sure you want to learn forgiveness? Oh yeah, no, I want to get to that next level. Okay. Well, to really learn forgiveness, Aaron, to really master it, you'd have to have the worst thing ever happen to you and be able to forgive that person. That level of true forgiveness. If you master that, now you're at another level. And I'm not saying it's a level where you finally win the game. I'm just saying this is expansion of consciousness. So in your explanation of it, you're like, oh, so I can say thank you for blah, 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 blah. No, there's none of that. It's your soul says, I want to expand to become more of what love and God is. So therefore, this part I probably could learn more about. Well, to learn more about it, be careful what you ask for. Even Oprah Winfrey says, be careful what you pray for, because if you pray for wisdom, you're going to get something really hard where you have to be really wise in that decision.
Yeah.
Forgiveness, ultimately, if you had someone murder your child and in this lifetime you had to look them in the eye and forgive them, you have almost mastered forgiveness. Okay.
Yes,
So
but
that's
what I want to interject here because I don't consider that this is humanly possible, and
that what is.
to forgive people that have done so many things like this.
Well, it is.
Look,
It has been done over and over again.
well,
People go to the
I,
jail and look at the guy in the face. They absolutely is humanly possible. It is divine grace, and those people are very evolved and very rare, but it absolutely is humanly possible. It's the most
well, very, very
divine
rare.
being
Okay,
that anyone can become.
I'm very skeptical about it, and
Be careful, because now you're gonna have to come back and do it.
Well, you see, if they can look into the face of this monster that, killed whoever and
Hmm.
forgive them and this, that, and the other, and they can completely emancipate themselves, then I would consider that that isn't a human trait. That isn't a part of what it is to be a human being.
But it's not human.
Because,
Human is not
yeah,
divine.
this is what I'm getting to, Rachel. And you see, this is what I'm starting to conclude with many, many things pertaining to these gurus of the greatest height. They're
Mhm.
conveying something to us. And you will remember reading the course in mastery that this book is supposed to be written and articulated by Jesus himself. And Jesus is saying, "I say unto you, I am not of your world." And
Mhm.
so what he's doing is he's speaking to the spiritual world, and he's telling us, hang on a minute.
Is this you or is this me?
Yeah, hang on. I'm just Skyping with Rachel. Can I call you back a bit
Ah,
later? She's recording it, you see. Okay. See you later. Bye. You there, Rach?
yeah.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that when Jesus is articulating how we should learn a certain mastery, it seems like that it is coming from the spirit world, because the only thing that exists really is spirit. This world doesn't exist, Rachel. This
Mhm.
is entirely illusory. And so the only way then that you can listen without your heart burning with anger to this sort of nonsense is when you look at it from the perspective that this world is an illusion. It's not real. It's only a game. You're only playing the game. And Jesus is saying, you're only playing the game, and you don't know it now, but when you go back, you'll go, oh, damn, that lesson was so hard because it was my son that God was telling me to cut the head off, and I couldn't get my head around it. But if you manage to do that, then okay, you get a little bit more wiser and your soul evolves a little bit more. But my God, at what a cost, the human aspect, that the cost of living with that in this illusion. That's the thing.
Yes, it is. But at the same time, the spirit and the humanity combined together. That's why be in this world, be of this world, not in this world. What is it? Be in this world, not
Yeah,
of this world. Yeah.
yeah. Be in this world, not of this world.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's it. Be in this world, not of this world. If we can maintain that ability, always being prepared for death, knowing there really isn't a death, but that's not how our programming works, okay? So we are so programmed to believe death is bad, life is good. We're so programmed to believe that if a child dies at 7, that's horrific, or a person dies before what's the age where it's just okay where they die? 70, 80? What is it now? You know?
Yeah. I don't think there's an age. It's whatever is easier for you. Then that's
Well,
a
come
good
on.
age
I
for
think
them
there's a
to die.
general age because we can Google it right now and see
Okay,
what the average age. Let's say
well, age.
76.
It's when you're pissing yourself and when you can't get out of bed and when you're being spoon fed by
Well,
your nanny.
no, but I mean, look, let's say my dad dies or someone dies in their 70s or 80s. You're like, oh, I'm so sorry. That's really sad. But Michael Jackson dies at 50 or somebody dies in their 50s. That's young. That's young. Oh, well, you shouldn't have died. You shouldn't have died. It comes down to animals too, because we're so caught up in the idea that we should live a certain time to be okay with death because we have been programmed to believe that it's the years, not the moments. It's the you need to it is so programmed that it's even hard for us to have this conversation because to get out of the concept of life and death and that the fact that my friend dropped dead at 33 but lived you know more of a life than most people do in their whole life, and even if they don't live more of a life, it's just we need to be I remember reading this one thing where it said you need to be more comfortable with the invisible than the visible. That's the answer. And that doesn't mean you don't care about the visible. That doesn't mean that someone that forgives someone that killed their mother or daughter approves of it or says that it's okay. It's really to end the suffering inside of our own consciousness for us, because it eats us away. The non-forgiveness, that anytime you hold anything against somebody, it doesn't do anything to them because you live up here and you live here. It's all going to eat you up. So it really is the freedom for you. It's not a thank God that you learn this lesson. It's to free
Yeah,
yourself from the ability to be free from the pain of
that's
holding
right.
on this
Entirely.
anger.
See, that is only, it can only be a rationale if you are the only thing in existence, i.e., solipsism, whereby you are here, like in Westworld. You're living a fantasy, and you can kill and rape to your heart's content. They're only robots, and you're just satiating your deepest desires. You see, because if this is a reality, and you are feeling like, I'm just going to do everything that keeps my heart calm, and I'm going to forgive everybody, then this society isn't going to work, Rachel, because if everybody is going to forgive everybody, then everybody has free reign to do whatever they want to. And lots of people want to do atrocious things.
But
So
if
therefore,
everybody wants to, but if you live in that consciousness, that means you also don't want to hurt anybody, because if you hurt someone else, you're hurting yourself. I'm talking about a oneness, not just forgiveness. I'm talking about a sense of oneness where I would never, ever want to harm you, Aaron, or anybody, because it's harming me. I don't want
yeah,
to have a, you know what I
that,
mean?
yeah,
That
that's a
consciousness
fantasy.
will be heaven on earth.
Yeah, that's a fantasy, and so that isn't a reality. I
Well,
don't
it's a
think it ever.
fantasy, but the only reality you have is you. So it can be a fantasy coming true for you because you're the only one that feels the pain.
So if it's a fantasy because the only thing that's real is you, then isn't that solipsism?
Look,
Solipsism.
you get to experience what you create. And if I forgive and on that level, I might experience an ecstasy and a heaven that no one else around me can ever imagine. But I get to experience it. It's my world, you know. People think that gaining is gaining something to make someone else lose. That's the programming up here, when ultimately it's losing your life for the greater cause. Because was it, if you lose your life for my sake or my name or whatever? Name is nature. People say pray in the name of Christ. They don't in Jesus' name. I remember I used to pray in Jesus' name. Name means nature, the nature of Christ consciousness, the nature, not the name, the nature. That's name. That's what name means. So in the nature of that, you really can experience heaven on earth. You have. Do you know why you have when you did your DMT experiences? Because this changed. Nothing around you has changed.
Yeah,
Nothing.
that's right. And so this is what I'm discussing with Paul on a regular basis. And I'm looking at all this stuff, and it seems to me that, of course, everything is so paradoxical. If you say go back to the, let's say, like 20,000 years or 50,000 years, when people were living very, very, they still had our level of consciousness because it had evolved to this state by then, and we were living
We're
in bear
devolved.
skins. Uh, yeah, we were living in bear skins, and we had small communities whereby everybody knew everybody, and so therefore it was so easy to love everybody because you were all family. In that scenario, I can take on board that then we should forgive this certain person, because not only is it beneficial for yourself, it's beneficial for them, and it's beneficial for the community to a degree.
But that's
But
what it is, Aaron. How can you see it as anything different? It's
well,
disguised as different. It's all
yeah, but
disguised as different. It's not different.
well, I have to. I'm still keeping grounded, and I can't take that leap of New Age faith. That why can't I see it the same as that? Because it isn't the same as that. Because all around there's murder and mayhem, and there's manipulation, and there's deception, and all this sort of thing. What is that? An illusion? if we're taking this as a reality, is that
Well,
aspect of
I'll
it
tell you
an
something.
illusion?
After you have done a psilocybin journey or a DMT journey, as I've seen you afterwards, you don't speak of any of this. It's not your reality. So
No,
what is that?
and so, yes, this is the thing. When your mind moves into a higher state of God consciousness, then all that stuff fades away into a non-reality, Rachel. Now, recently I've been doing a lot of DMT, and when I take the DMT and I go walking around amongst all the people, I don't have an issue with any of them. They're okay. They're just like ghosts passing by, and my critical aspect of my mind has been subsided, and there's a heightened state of well-being and joy and wonder at the world. But you see, when you get drawn back into the matrix reality,
Yeah.
and you start looking at YouTube and the idiots and the suppression and
Yes.
the murder and all this stuff, then your mind gets a different variety of influx of chemical, whatever it is, Rachel. So this is why I'm saying to people, be very, very careful who you speak to, what you listen to, what you watch, because
So
this
true.
is going to be poisoning your mind.
It's so
Now,
true.
if I was an Indian guru and I'd lived in India, walking around in my nappy all my life, and I'm 80 years
You're
old,
nappy.
and I've never had to work, and people that appreciate my wisdom bring me a bowl of rice, a couple of times a day, then I can look out the world and I can say, well, the world's a beautiful place. He doesn't have to work, he doesn't have to stress, he doesn't have to worry. All around him, his friends that think he's a great guru and feed him. And so you can easily then fall into that level of perception about the world. But when your mind has been contained or imprisoned by the archonic energy, it's very difficult to see that. So I want to take this a little bit further now, and I want to speculate that the original God consciousness was a beautiful thing, and we have so many powers, and we could very easily find the grace, and we could live in this complete bliss and wonder at this marvelous thing. But this thing now, we're being taken away from the marvelous aspects of it, and we're being suppressed and contained in this mechanical aspects of it, Rachel, with language and math and science and manipulation and all this sort of thing. And so it's like the world now is in actual fact governed by archons, taking us away from that God consciousness. I can see that, I can understand that, and I can see it as a reality.
I'm going to still hold true to the idea and the thought of formation, because words are things. Thoughts are things, actually. In the beginning was the Word, first sentence of the Bible. In the beginning was the Word. Why didn't it say that in the beginning was the thought? In the beginning was a thing. It didn't say that. In the beginning was the Word, because the Word created everything. So when you state what you've just stated, even though you've been a contradiction in the past paragraph, because in one sense you're saying, this is why I tell people to be careful of what they put in their mind, blah, blah, comma. But now, Rachel, there's archons and there's AI and blah, 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 blah. And it's, you've just stated it, Aaron. You create your own reality, and that's not a new agey thing. That is an ancient wisdom. That is something that has been way beyond something we can even grasp for a moment when you're either on a psychedelic trip or you have this grandiose moment. I should say grand and humble at the same time, this divine grace that comes through a deep state of meditation and bliss when you're connected with the thing that never ends. And that is that we really, really have a choice of fear or love. And I say that all the time, and so do you, but it does come down to this because you have so much emotion and passion behind all that you say. So do I. That's a power. And I've had the few people I know and respect who just want to shake me back and forth, and they have, saying, you just don't get it. You just don't get it. You just don't get how powerful you are. You really don't, because you don't act like it. And when you do act like it, you're using the power in the wrong direction. meaning you're using that same power you could, like electricity, to light up a room, and you're using it to electrocute yourself. Same exact power. When I say power, I don't mean control. I mean direction of thought. And when you see something, which you've had the experience to do on your trips, and I have in my own ways, I've had those moments of clarification where everything is perfect. And that includes the good and the bad. And you can't say that to somebody. You know, what about the woman that just got back from jogging and her husband was pissed off at her, so killed their 4 children and himself, and that's what she comes back to. She's still alive and she still has to deal with it. But there's some kind of divine grace that not only got her through, but has given her the ability to come to terms with whatever demons that has brought up for her. And that's the worst thing anyone can think of happening. I would never wish it on my worst enemy. But you only have this in your life to deal with. And this is what changes everything you see on the outside. So it's up to us what we put in. So if you want to say the archons are in control, they'll be in control, Aaron. You just stated it as law. And so it shall be.
Yeah. And so then, to surmise what you've just said there, because we are God consciousness, we are God creators, then we create our own reality depending on how we think about it. Now, this is all very true.
But it can't be mental, though. It can't just be think, because, thinks and thoughts are important. But you and I both agree, like in the past 5 days, I've had so many different emotions where I've had to go, hold on, this is not who you are. This is just what you're feeling right now. And be careful where you direct that feeling, because you direct it in the wrong way and you're just going to create more of it.
Yeah. And so, what we need to do really, if we want to live a more tranquil life, is that we detach ourselves from the power of words, and we become more intuitive, and we start to feel around the world. You see, because if I walk out around this vicinity and I'm only feeling without thinking and without carrying the weight of things I've been watching and my experience over this past year, then I can walk around in complete bliss. But if I look at people...
If you only feel things, but you don't... Okay, I'm trying to grasp what you just said.
Okay, for instance, I'm walking by 2 guys. They're covered in tattoos. They've got big beer bellies. They're carrying a can of beer. They're both looking into the phone while they're carrying a can of beer. They've got a ghetto blaster.
I'm sorry.
In one of
I
their
think
hands.
that's absolutely impossible for you not to have a thought. I promise you, when you don't have a thought, you will have reached enlightenment, Aaron.
Yeah.
I know, just you personally.
If you are an enlightened being and you have the grace of God, then you'll just feel those human beings, those beautiful souls. That's all you're going to be feeling. I'm struggling with that, Rachel,
Well, you know what? The Dalai Lama said the last feeling that you would ever feel as an enlightened being is compassion. Sorry, not the last. The only thing that you'll feel is compassion. The only thing. And when you think of what compassion is, compassion with passion, but it's comfort. It comes down to this, Aaron. This is what I said in my video. I have so many thoughts about Anthony Bourdain and what happened. And I don't know. And it goes back to Byron Katie, who's honestly an enlightened being, when she's spends her entire life telling people the format of asking the 5 questions. And those questions just are, do you know it's true? Do you really know it's true? Who would you be without that thought? Turn it around, okay? All of that in those 5 steps are owning, taking responsibility. But before you can do that, you have to ask yourself, do I know? Do I know 100%? We all think we have. Do you know how many people have an intuition that I'm like a witch? They have an intuition I'm an evil person on YouTube. Their intuition is telling them this. So can you trust your intuition even? No,
you
don't know.
Can't trust anything. Yeah. God.
So when you say feelings also come and go.
Say that.
Oh yeah.
It's,
I mean, not. I mean, there's just the ones that are probably projecting onto me their darkness.
obviously, yeah, and therefore, then it's all there. It's all out there, and so it is a reality. There is dark and there is light, and
No,
if
that's
if we,
true.
if we want to look, if we're in the pitch black and we just imagine the light, what are we doing? Are we creating a reality, or are we creating a fantasy? We're creating a fantasy. If you
Well,
close
why
your eyes,
not?
it's light, it's light, it's light, it's light, it's light, and then you imagine it's light, and maybe you even have a vision of a beautiful sunny day. But you open your eyes, the reality is it's dark, Rachel. And so this is what I'm saying about the mind. It's a fantasy portal. We can live in a fantasy whilst we're here, forgiving everybody and accepting
But
everybody because
that's
it
not
makes.
the fantasy because you're talking about denial, not fantasy. And the thing is, you're saying it's not dark. It's like when I've lived in LA now, and I have not seen a thunderstorm in probably 6 months. So if I saw one tonight, I would run in the rain. I would walk outside. I'd be like, oh my God, and I'd listen to the thunder in a way that you probably don't even hear thunder. I would listen to I'd see lightning and I'd count the seconds till I could hear thunder because this is my perception right now. I'm hungry for it. This is my thoughts about it. Your thoughts about it are different. It's the same thing. You're going to say, well, reality, you keep saying reality when you're saying your reality. You're choosing to have thoughts about this as reality when it, we don't know what reality is. So, my mom says something really kind of wise. She goes, if we don't know what happens after we die, if we don't know what happens, blah, 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 make it up, but make it a good story. Because guess what? Wouldn't it be interesting if whatever we made up happened after we died? If whatever you thought and you believed would happen, like the people who believe that they'll be in hell if they commit suicide, that they would, I mean, that movie, What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams, was all about that. It sort of was like whatever you are thinking in this life, you create, and the next life, wherever we go. That's why it's so important what we create up here.
Okay, so again, then you're creating a fantasy,
Is it
and
the fantasy if your left brain goes dead, like that woman that had a stroke and the left brain went dead for a while and she only experienced the right brain? Was that fantasy or was that real? Because all she could feel was good things and all she could see was light.
yes, that neurosurgeon, I think she was, or a neuroscientist,
Yeah,
wasn't she?
right.
I
Hmm.
forget what her name was. But obviously, there's certain matrixial things that bring about stuff. Because if we're going to be looking at that, and we're going to go, oh, this neuroscientist, she experienced this with her left brain. Hang on, if you listen to another scientist, a quantum physicist, they'll say, well, there is no brain. Left or right, there is no brain. And so, again, we have to be careful, don't we? Because we can't just pick eclectically the bits we want to make up our own illusion. Well, of course
Why
we
not?
can, as long as we know it's an illusion. But that's the thing, you see,
But it
Rachel.
is an illusion.
It
This is
is
all.
all an illusion. It's completely an illusion. And so if there's certain bits of it that agitate you, then it's because you are giving audience to it. The difficulty being, because it appears that we're under the control of the demiurge, and we've been programmed with all this hate and animosity for everybody, then it's a very, very difficult program to override and to see the bliss and to see the love. Um, and maybe I'm experiencing the transition um, having more difficulties than you, Rachel, because if you talk so eloquently and softly about, oh, it's just a choice to choose this love and that. Well, I mean, I just have to say, well, if a robber burst into your parents' house and stabbed them both, would you be able to find what you're speaking about? This is what I'm saying.
Oh
Would
God,
you
Aaron,
really be
Aaron. I mean, come on. When my first dog died, I was a fucking wreck, and I cried, and I mean, I cried myself to sleep. Like I couldn't breathe. I cried myself to sleep so hard. And I had nobody. I was just sitting and I screamed at God, where's my dog? I just wanted to know where he was. I just needed to know where he was. And that was the night that I told you I heard in my ear, Christ lives, Christ lives, Christ lives. It was like a walkie-talkie in my right ear. I can't explain it. I never have been able to explain it. All I know is that it was an answer. I was screaming, what is this? I'm still trying to figure out what that means. And I do think that I think it ultimately means there is no death. And I think that I struggle all the time. But I've had enough schooling and I've done enough work on myself to know that the struggle is my choice. And now can you say this to somebody who just saw their mom drown and when they're getting off a boat, like a refugee? Can you let them know that it's really just a choice? Like, all that stuff feels like bullshit when people are in those situations. But I do feel like we are so privileged that we have the time to even have this conversation and have the time to go, what upsets me, and is this okay, and is this not okay? I feel like the number one thing that prevents us from experiencing any kind of joy is judgment about the situation. Meaning, if I am not in alignment with who I truly am, I'll feel pain and I'll feel judgment, because judgment separates. Ultimately, it separates us from being one. When you don't have judgment, you feel completely connected to everything. And that's the secret. That's the veil that needs to be lifted. And when I'm in pain, because I'm not accepting fully the things that are in front of me, like the death of my dog or if my parents were murdered, 100%. But ultimately, every single lesson in life is going to lead us back to the exact same conclusion. That is, it's not what happened. It's your judgment about what happened that causes the pain. That's
Yes.
it.
Yes.
That's it.
Exactly. And so what
You
I think
can't
about,
get there mentally. Trust me. You can't just get there thinking about it. You can't talk your way out of it.
yeah, well, you see, what I do, as you know, I philosophize, and I'm looking at this world, and I'm trying to put all the pieces together, and I'm looking so broadly at all the options and the viewpoints that are out there, but I'm also looking very, very closely at how I'm feeling and what my thought pattern is, and my own subjective truth. Now, what I have stated with all of my psychedelic experiences, that none of them have brought me any closer in any regard to loving my fellow man. But every single one of them, without fail, has took me massively more closer to nature, opened my eyes exponentially at the majesty and the beauty of the natural world. Why is that, Rachel? This is the question I'm asking myself. So let me continue a little bit, please. Because, you see, if some people say, like, loving everybody and everything, that's what does it for you, it doesn't do it for me. It doesn't touch me, Rachel. It doesn't even come close to giving me the remotest satisfaction or calmness of my heart. If I walk in woods, I am in heaven.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you something then. Your ability to love anybody can't exist unless you love yourself. So if your inability to love the world, meaning human, woman.
I don't class the human being as the world. I love the world. If the world was barren of mankind, I'd be ecstatic.
I wouldn't be here, Aaron. Come on.
Well, I could imagine you. I could imagine this Zoom
never
conversation.
Imagine me. There's just no brain that could imagine this. I can't even imagine this.
Seriously, okay.
Listen, you have the ability to, when I say love yourself, I'm still learning that on a daily basis. And this is what my friend who's super, super successful, and he's just here to assist other people along on this journey. Okay, this guy could be done a long time ago. But he is frustrated with me because he says, you just don't understand your value. You don't really love yourself. You love yourself, but you really don't. And it frustrates me because I respect him more than anybody I know. And I think about when he says that. And then I say, how do I know when I'm loving myself? And he said, you'll know when you love the world. Now, when I don't say the world, I don't mean the shitty people who do shitty things. And I don't mean that. I mean, when you're able to see the world through the eyes of source. See, source has no judgment, meaning if you're going to plant a seed on a property, that property doesn't give a shit what you plant. If you plant poison, it will grow poison. If you plant good things, it will grow. Whatever you plant, it will grow. It doesn't give a shit about whether you're planting something good or bad. And whether poison's good or bad is your interpretation as well. But what I'm saying is everything is that, right? It's a canvas that we get to paint on. And I need to only, and this sounds selfish again, I need to only work on this. I need to only heal what's in here. Stop projecting it out there and pretending it's someone else. I don't like them. I don't like him. I don't like her. Because I'm telling you, Aaron, when you are in that place and when I'm in that place, which is that vein of gold, that moment where you're like, everything's just fucking great. Those things, that YouTube video you might watch, you would not even be interested in looking at it.
Yeah,
things would not even enter your field. So it's the only job we need to do is to love ourselves enough to stay in the energy of joy, doing things you love, like when you sing, you're laughing.
A scenario comes to mind. You have been kidnapped. Somebody is holding you for ransom.
Well, you better fucking save me.
They tie you up. This is actually what happened at somebody in England. They put tape over your mouth, they bind you, and they put you down a drain. And ultimately, you're left to die because the ransom isn't paid. And so when you're down there and you're suffering, do you then call upon this God consciousness and wisdom within yourself to make the world a beautiful place? Because it's all our perspective anyway.
But it's always about saving yourself, even without the drain and without the being kidnapped. It's always at night when you're sitting there and you're upset, during the day when you're contemplating hating the world. You're about saving yourself because you can't save anyone else without saving yourself. So if I was in that moment, it would be a manifestation of other things I felt like I was in that drain in other times in my life. And I would just surrender like I've tried to do many other times. And I'd say, look, I'm not going to be down here forever. There'll be a point where I'm leaving this body, whether I'm eaten by rats or not, and it's going to suck.
Well, if you ever could do that, then your strength, your inner strength is
What other choice do you have, Aaron? You're stuck in a drain. What are you going to do? Scream until you can't scream and then surrender.
I think there's an enormous amount of stress until the complete and utter resignation of your death. That's when you get this bliss and this level of acceptance. Not before, not a single second before. As long as you think there's a way of getting out, because this is what the ego is going to do.
Yes.
It's going to do everything for self-preservation.
Yep.
The only time the ego is going to die is just before the body dies, when it realizes that it isn't possible to get out of that scenario where you are going to die.
Yes and no. I have seen that level be surpassed through when I got my master's in spiritual psychology, and one of the last exercises that we ever did, it's called Bataka work. Bataka is just something it's like a pillow on a stick, and then you hit another big pillow that two people are holding.
Right, yeah.
And you have to do it, but you have to. You don't have a choice. You have to, and you have to talk about everything you're upset about in your life that ever happened to you. And you have about 45 minutes to do it. And you're really not allowed to stop. So you can start doing it, and it's the most awkward moment of my life because all the comedies, voices in my head were like, look how I look. I look so stupid doing this. Two people are holding this. I'm going to have to expose things that happened to me as a child or things I felt. And, but I was being encouraged by the counselor to keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, right? And I was in a group of 10 where I saw everyone else do the same thing. So it's not like none of us were exposing everything. And I got to about 40 minutes into it, and you give yourself over to that rage. And it's only through that rage where I physically expressed it in a safe environment. It's rage. And then after the rage, I crumbled to the ground just like every other person did and cried, because underneath rage is sadness, comes across as rage. And that's how you really know when someone's angry at you, or they say something on YouTube, or the trolls, if they're real, or someone, when that rage underneath that, only because I went through it, is sadness. And that sadness, and then I cried for, I don't even remember how long it was. You lose a sense of time. But after those two things, and you really, really screamed about everything that ever happened to you, and you got a chance to have that release, and then you cry, it's a sense of God that I've never experienced. I did experience. It was a light. It was a lifting of the body. It was a sheer sense of a diamond moment that no one can express unless you've been through it. And everyone in that room went through it. One woman started speaking in a language that, once we looked it up, stopped existing probably about 300 years ago. But when we looked it up, she was speaking, and you would say tongues, but it was her ancestry. And it was a beautiful thing. And that's when you experience God, because it's like you said, you go through the covering in the mouth, the kidnapping, thrown in the drain, and you go through the hell.
Yeah.
And then there's that bliss.
When you've got that release of,
but you can't spiritually bypass, and you keep talking about the new age like that's like we're spiritually no, you've got to acknowledge the pain, and you have to feel the pain, and you have to go through the pain and express the pain until you can ever get to that bliss. You can't get to that bliss unless you do it through psychedelics or another way that's cheating.
Yeah, let's have a look then what we're talking about. What is this bliss? Because I'm going to be saying that this bliss isn't bliss per se. It's just the natural state of the unprogrammed and unaffected human being. It is a beautiful, calm state.
Could be how a baby was, yes.
Before it's corrupt. Mm-hmm. And what's happened is, in all of the years that we have walked this earth, we've gathered up so much tension that we've completely lost what it feels like to be like a baby. And this is why I think Jesus supposedly said we have to become like children, or become like babies when we look at the world and when we feel the world.
Wonderment.
You are completely free, and you look at it without any constraint, without any tarnish or tainting at all. You look at it with pure awe. We have to break ourselves down, break the ego down, cry, and this again, it sounds to me like a baptism. You shed the water, and you emancipate yourself of all the things that have been bothering you for so long, and that's when you cry like a baby. That's when you become born again. And so I understand all these concepts, and I've experienced some degree of lots of this stuff, and so that takes me a little bit nearer to comprehending this. And of course, having real ecstasy with a psychedelic, or even when you're holding your newborn baby or your young child, and you're looking into the eyes, and their eyes look on you, and they never blink. There's a connection, there's a love, there's something which is amazing. And you just cry with that connection to the self, to the purity of it. That is what I've been saying in lots of my videos. And in recent times, I've been saying what I think it is that people want is they want to get back into the womb. They want to get back from this hellhole, really, to the bliss and comfort and tranquility of whence they came, when they first became a conscious being, and then all of a sudden they ended up into this world, and it's kind of like, what the fuck is this?
Oh, we've always been trying to get back. You kidding me? That's the whole circle of life, is that we come out and then we get slapped in the ass and we're shocked, and we get that experience over and over again, and we just want to get back, and we are going to go back. We are going to go back. That's what death is. We go back.
And so then, what would you say about this? In view of the fact that deep unconsciously, we know that we don't belong here and we want to go back.
Yeah.
How many people talk about, I want to go home now? So many people. And so, because we intuitively know this, Rachel, this is kind of like, it's a bit like a bad dream sometimes, and we want to wake up, then we try to touch on what it is that we feel when we are on the other side of this dimension. And this is what Jesus conveys, this beautiful forgiveness and the calmness and all this stuff which doesn't pertain to this matrix. Because what pertains to this matrix is the human experience. Having this completely blissful,
yeah, but then we would just be
natural,
human and we wouldn't have souls. It's the combination and the dichotomy of both.
saying ultimately is that we are looking for this pure, clean state. And this is what we can attain in some level of deep meditation, when we don't have any thoughts, we don't have any knowledge of the being that we are. We only have this pure awareness. That is the most wonderful thing. And that's why all these gurus and meditators want to do it, because we want to get back to that stuff, which is really us. It isn't us in this world. This world, there's some sort of fucked up test going on.
Yeah.
How much can you stand?
Well, how much can you stand? But also, there's some stupid movie I saw with Nicolas Cage and Meg Ryan, some angel movie where one of them dies. I think it was him. And I just remember that he has a chance to come back after he dies in human form. And he's in the shower. And I think about this almost every time I take a shower, is that one moment in the movie where he's feeling water for the first time, because he was in energy. He wasn't in the body. He was feeling the way it hits his body, the cold and the hot, and he started crying in the shower because it was such an ecstasy just to feel water on his skin. So I think that we're losing also the ability, or we've taken for granted, just those few things that we just don't even realize are so amazing, because we are in human form to experience things, to taste that really fine, whether it's chocolate cake, or for me it's a Bordeaux from 1994, and I taste it, I sniff it, I don't even taste it, I swirl it with 4 other people and we talk about it. I mean, it's like poetry. And by the time it actually touches our lips, we have just spent 30 minutes in if it was porn, it would be like fluffing the wine. We're basically just talking about how amazing and what we see to be this wine. Is it going to be like this? Those moments, Aaron, they're just, being human is bliss is combining the both.
That's entirely amazing. And of course, I, like you, I go through every part of my day entirely enjoying my being, entirely enjoying the world, enjoying every single thing I eat, and I look at it and I scrutinize it and I wonder about it, like an orange or peach or something like that. How do you know? How do you know? Oh, I love this so much. Thanks. I can say thank you, to the universe for that. I can't say thank you for, cutting my legs off or something like this. I'm going to struggle with that one until I've got some sort of resignation on it. But I get what it's all about, Rachel. But, it's a struggle, and there isn't anybody that's going to do it like water flowing off a duck's back, We can make resignations about death and about certain illnesses that may be crippling to us. We can find this serenity with this stuff, and then if you slowly lose every one of your limbs and you end up sitting in a chair, you're on your torso, you'll find a level of humility whereby you can say, well, at least I've still got a head. But it's not really much of a constant. Thanks for the lesson, but I would rather have had my arms and legs.
Don't. And I bet if you've had a conversation with someone that has their legs amputated or really has no arms and legs and they are out there, that's not the conversation that you're going to have. They're not in that frame, the mind frame where we are so attached to what we have because we don't know what it's like to not have that, and then where our mindset would be without that. And I will tell you that the best way someone described what heaven and hell is, and you know this story, Aaron, this big rich king climbs a mountain to because someone told him that this guru at the top of the mountain knew what heaven and hell was.
Thought through that.
So what? What did he do?
You want to say it again anyway for the benefit of people that haven't listened to it. But it's a monk, isn't it? It's a monk in a monastery. And
Be whatever
there's
you
an
want it to
invading.
be. Right, the monk of the
Okay,
monastery.
yeah.
So the king goes up there, spends days going up there to find out this heaven and hell because he really wants to know. And so, of course, comes up to the monk finally, and because it was a long journey to get up there, and no one has ever said anything. This king, you don't stand with this king. He's the dude, right? And the king says, "Well, monk. Maybe it's a monk. We'll make him a monk." But he says, "Oh, monk, I heard that you know what heaven and hell is, and I've traveled very far and very wide on a very long journey to get the answer from you. So can you please tell me? I'll give you all the money in the world, whatever you want right now. Tell me what it is." And of course, the monk says, "I can't believe you came here. I was in the middle of meditation. You disturbed me. I don't care who you are. You and your horses and your crown. Get out of here. Get out of my face. You disturbed me. I don't want to have anything to do with you." Now, no one has ever talked to the king that way, so he was enraged and his face got all red, and all his servants were like, "Oh," they all were shaking in their boots like, "Oh no, what's he going to do?" And of course, he had a sword, and this little monk was only like 5 feet tall. And
So what?
he takes his sword out, and he says, "How dare you speak to me like this?" And he's literally shaking, and he's coming this close. I
could run this sword through your heart without blinking.
I will take your head off in this moment. I can't believe you said this to me. And he's going on and on and on, right? To the point where the monk's just staring at him. And then when he finishes saying how he's going to chop him up into bits and how no one has ever done that to him, the monk looks up at him and says, "That, my friend, is hell." And then the king looks around and grabs his sword and says, "Oh my God, oh my God." It makes this huge realization because the king also was on some kind of self-awareness path in his riches of egomania and having all this power. And he just realized that what he was feeling was hell. And the monk just kept staring at him with this beautiful, unconditional love, just unconditional love. And the king
Like
just
a baby.
melted. Well, no, he didn't cry like a baby. He had this huge realization and he fell to his knees and he put the sword down and he said, "Oh my God, thank you so much I just realized that you're right. I'm sorry, that totally was hell. You just made me, thank you so much. Thank you. Can you forgive me for doing that?" And then the monk looked at him and said, "And that is heaven."
I think what happened, there's two morals and two stories morphed into one there. Yeah, we kind of like get the point on that.
I think about it all the time. Whenever I'm angry, it's hell. Whenever I'm feeling like I forgive and I'm sorry, it's heaven.
Heaven and hell are within us, and I can absolutely firsthand vouch for that. I've experienced both, and so you don't have to be anywhere in particular to experience any one of these things. You can be in heaven at any time of day or night by whatever your mind is making manifest, and you can be in hell by the same. And so we know then that this is responsible for this, and there's nothing going on outside of pure consciousness. And I won't even go as far as to say it's the brain when I'm pointing to this, because there's none of it that's actually in existence. There is only a dream that's being dreamed. And so on the basis of that then, of having this dream, then yes, dream the dream that most satisfies you at the end of the day.
Well, my friend always says when I'm telling her about whether it's a root canal or a breakup with a boyfriend, which happened, or any amount of things you can talk about, my job ended, this or that, she'll always stop me midway and go, are you going to be the hero of the story? Because people don't like to go to movies unless, I'm rooting for you. Just don't make it a boring story where like, nah. It's like, oh man, yeah, you're right. Because I can make the story whatever I want it to be.
It's a polite and an interesting way of saying, like, this is getting boring.
She does that. She goes, do you sure you want to know? She says to me, she goes, this is the best line. She says, is that the story you want to tell?
Yeah.
And I go, well, but that's what happened. She goes, no, that's not what happened. Is that the story you want to tell? Well, yeah, because of How does that make you feel after you're done? How does that make the listener feel after they listen to the story? Inspired? Sorry for you? What do you want?
What do you want out of this? What's the end result?
Tell the story. And that is a really big lesson in what I have learned. She has trained me to speak to her now. And the way I speak to her, I tell stories in them.
Yes, well, you see, we can look at this from her perspective again. Then you may think that she's imparting wisdom to you, and this is good advice to carry forward in your life and bear in mind how you're affecting other people. But it could be just the simple thing that she's projecting onto you. What she's actually saying is, you are boring me. Is this the story I want to listen to? It's boring.
Oh, for sure. Well, that's what we're all doing, is projecting onto each other. But she is right in the sense that I was boring myself as well, really.
We're all right and we're all wrong, and there is no right and wrong. And, right and wrong is only an illusion of a perspective anyway. And so this was... I think that little story is even better than the king and the monk thing, because to derive a real scenario which we encounter every single day is ourselves with somebody else. And if we listen to our rhetoric, if we listen to the dialogue that we're saying, we can ask ourselves, is that the emotion I want to feel? Is that the story I want to project? Is that the emotion I want to instill in somebody that I'm telling? Lots of people, they want to control your emotions and they want to bring you down. Some people want to bring you up, because when they bring you up through laughter and comedy, as you know, then it makes you feel good. It makes you feel more accepted. It makes you feel more loved. And when you want to bring people...
I found, Aaron, it's never about bringing people or making them feel... I'm telling you, the most, and this is a good psychological experiment, even with my YouTube videos, is that the more that I said quite a few times, I caught myself, because we learned this in school, to not say, how when you're driving along, when you, because I really think you, hey, you, I went, wait, me. I'm sorry, I keep saying you, me. I'm doing these videos for me. And if my learning inspires you, great. But I'm sharing what I'm learning because I'm preaching to myself a lot louder than you, because ultimately teachers teach what they need to preach to themselves. And that is ultimately the truth.
Okay, so now this is beautiful, because kind of what we've done is we've done a bit of a loop here, because
a 5-hour journey, which is going to split into 8 videos.
I asked you about your latest video, and you said because you're tired of the negativity out there, and you want to spread this beautiful vibration. You want to inspire people. That's what you said was the explanation of why you are now morphing into something else. And now what you just said is because basically it's all an entirely selfish thing, which it is. And that's not in a bad way.
I said that in the video too. I said this near the end. I said, this is not for you guys. This video is for me.
Yeah. This is evident, Rachel. It's very evident when people watch my videos. My videos are all about my journey. I can't live your journey. I can't talk about your journey. I can only talk about my journey. And so if I'm airing it, then it's something I'm getting off my chest. And if it's any good to you, by the way, then okay, that's great. But the main reason is that, I'm saying.
But you do say a lot of, you people need to, you should. And I find myself, when I say that, I got to turn around and go, I should. I'm speaking to myself, not you, me. I should appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, in some cases, then it's the self-speaking. But if you see, if I'm addressing people and they are disgruntled with their lives, I'm not disgruntled with my life, so I don't need to do anything, Rachel. I don't need to do absolutely nothing because I love my life exactly the way it is. And so if I say then you need to meditate or you need to spend more time in nature, that is what they need to do.
But they don't. Nobody needs to do anything. You're saying they need to.
Need to do it if they don't want to make any changes. But if you want to play the guitar, Rachel, you need to play your fucking chords, and that is a fact. So we do need to do something. So don't go wishy-washy and flaky on me because I won't stand for it. I'm going to call you on your bullshit. Yeah.
If you want to
Caught your fucking corker there, didn't I?
practice. And I do need to. I really should, right? I should practice more, even though I don't know what to practice because I don't. See, I think people feel like, see, I'm doing this again. I feel like I need a goal in order for me to practice even the guitar because I need to have a goal. Oh, because I have a show coming up, Aaron, so I need to know the chords. But if I don't have a show coming up, then there's no reason for me to practice. It's stupid because you should practice just for the art of practicing, just to get better. But most people don't want to get better in life just to get better. Most people don't want to meditate just to meditate. They want to meditate because they're going to talk about meditation, so they better learn about it. You know what I mean? There's a goal.
This is a beautiful little nugget of information because this is how the vast majority of people live their lives.
Me too.
I was speaking to Paul about this yesterday. I was listening to one of the Greek philosophers called Seneca, and Seneca was he wrote this discourse on the wasting of one's life. And if we reflect on ourselves, on all the stuff that we've been doing, have we really been doing it for our own joy, or have we been doing it for some sort of benefit that we wanted to get from people, some sort of acclaim, some sort of appraisal, so people hold us in a high position, or this and that. How many of us do things that we don't really want to do because we want people to think about us in a certain way? But you see, by the time it comes to your deathbed, if you've got a few seconds to contemplate your demise before you actually perish, then you might reflect on all the bullshit that you've been telling yourself all your life. You know you're pitch black now. I can't see a single thing. I can't hear you now either. Can't hear you. Something fucked up.
You can't hear anything I'm saying.
I can hear you now, but I can't see you, girl.
That's weird. Oh my God, that's
black.
So strange. I wonder why.
Now then, because you said, oh.
There you go.
I didn't hear no trickles.
Well, I put it on mute.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, cool. And so I was talking about this philosopher called Seneca. How many of us are living our lives for the people, Rachel? And how many of us, when we're on our deathbed, are we going to go, wow, I had a fucking blast, and I capitalized on every single hour of it? There's probably not a single person on the planet. But because I have been doing that for a long time, then I do impress upon people, if you want to live this sort of life, then you do need to do shit.
Yeah.
That's a fact. You do need to get off your arse, and you do need to do this, and you do need to do that. Now, just getting back to what you were saying about you won't play your guitar for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Now, this is something that, gurus have said. When you are doing things any single time during your day, do it for the sake of it.
I know. When I listen to gurus, like, that's a lot.
And so I was talking to Paul about this the other day, and I'm saying, look, I'm learning a new song. Whenever I learn a new song, it takes weeks. Some of the songs, Rachel, that I can't even play to this day, I've been playing for years.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of times. If you're trying to emulate how somebody did it naturally, it's a very, very difficult thing to do. It came naturally to them. It doesn't come naturally to you because you're copying every single nuance of their fingers and strumming
Right.
patterns.
Well,
And so what I say is that I enjoy every single strum on my guitar just for the sake of it. And okay, I do have an objective in that I want to create a song, but that isn't what's propelling me to actually keep playing. It's the enjoyment and the tranquility, the sedation it's given me at that time. And it's meditation.
yeah.
It's what it's giving you at the time.
Well,
Not so
and
you
it
can
does. And it
so you
does.
can be enlightened, not so you can be a guru.
Right. But we all need to be disciplined about productivity, and we need to be disciplined about productivity. And that is doing things to get us into alignment and to enjoy ourselves. Now, for me, when I play the guitar, I'm very happy. I know it transmutes everything, and just I said, when I listen to those hymns, but that 4-part harmony, just anything in 4-part harmony, I listen to in with earphones, and I'm just it everything goes away. I feel it in all my cells, and so I'm realizing that has to be on that list of priority, just as eating right, working out, and having fun. People don't realize, even the massage I had today for $25, it is so important that we take care of every level of ourselves, because we cannot attract into our lives or vibrate at the point where any ideas are even going to come to us if we're blocked in thoughts and judgments all the time. Like, I think to myself, thank God Monday nights, my 2 comedian friends come over here and we watch The Bachelorette. This horrible reality TV where we just pause it every 10 seconds, make fun of them, and laugh incessantly to the point where we can't breathe. It almost feels like a workout. It's the best night. And I wonder how many people allow themselves to have that much fun in general. Just really, people are so serious in life. There's not a lot of laughter anymore. There really isn't. It really has become way more politically driven, and there's so much fewer George Carlins and Eddie Izzards, and
Just interject very briefly
we
here,
need
because
that. It's the highest form of vibration there is.
I laugh very, very seldom these days, because I don't mix with people. When we're talking, this is the highlight of my laughing. But there's other times, and it's never when I'm watching YouTube. It's when I'm walking on the beach and I'm looking at some clouds, and something strikes me, which is just so crazy that I just start laughing a bit like a madman. And sometimes I'll have tears in my eyes. I'm laughing at the absurdity of what this thing is. And when you can do that, when you can laugh at the absurdity of it, then you're not taking it too seriously.
Okay, and that's why we laugh, because because there are people that are spiritual and thinkers, but they're not able to step outside themselves and be humble enough to laugh at themselves. I can laugh at my contradiction. I can laugh at the fact that I'm a blonde actress in LA with a chihuahua who drives the convertible but has deep thoughts and is a comedian, and I'm full of contradictions. There's no way your will put me in any label. Huh?
That's on $6 million a year.
See, I'm able to laugh at that too. Like, I'm able to laugh at the fact that now certain people think I'm in the CIA because Richie from Boston said this. How would they get him? Send a blonde hair, blue-eyed girl that would seduce him.
Oh, Yeah.
It's awesome. Now I'm in the CIA. Like but if you are, I don't think I would have gotten through this life if I didn't instantly see. I have to stop myself from the comedy. Most people have to stop themselves from the seriousness. I have to stop myself from everyone turning into a cartoon and it being really like a South Park episode. And I have to go, no, Rachel, this is real.
So if you just look at Richie from Boston saying, how would they get me? They'd send this, blonde girl, blue eyes. Who does he think he is? Is he in a James Bond movie? Is he so influential that the CIA are going to be sending an agent to deal with it? What sort of fantasy is he living in, Rachel? Step back and look at this dude with his cone head driving around every single day. We're from Boston, and he's telling everybody what fucking time and date is. Come on, it's all a comedy, really.
But that's why I think it's so funny that in this comedy, I did something that I thought was a cool thing that a doctor came out and spoke about chemtrails to validate it, and it turns into probably the best episode on some other planet's reality show of my life. And the fact that there's a woman that worked for Lockheed Martin with my same last name, it's real. I appreciate it. Like, I'm actually more in appreciation of the brilliance of the levels of comedy than I am even the reality of being offended and being accused, because it's just so surreal to me.
So when we look at all this stuff, then it is so broad and it's so wide and it's so deep and it's so high. It encapsulates everything conceivable via the human being, which is incidentally is a tiny smidgen of what is out there from what we gather from scientists. And so
exactly,
it's so enormous and complex, Rachel, the tiny smidgen that we perceive, and then when we have a psychedelic experience, it's like, holy fuck, that was some fucked up shit.
Listen, we are so lucky that we only see through the veil.
Yes, man,
we are so lucky. We couldn't handle it.
We couldn't deal with it, no. And so if we look at this thing that we're in then, when we look at mushroom trips and DMT trips and salvia and ketamine and all this sort of stuff, wacky, far out, this thing is wacky and far out. And so if we just treat it like a trip or like a dream that it is and not take it too seriously, we might start to enjoy it a little bit more.
Exactly.
Instead of getting embroiled and roped into the saga, which somebody is reeling for us. It's like they want to get viewings, like any soap opera. They want to get viewings, and so they're making it as compelling as they possibly can to lure everybody in. Don't believe it, people. Stay the fuck away from those idiot screens, and you don't need it. Honestly, there's a whole comedy going on all around you. There's all the drama going on all around you. There's so much drama when you walk through a little pasture and you see the thousands of tiny lives which are going along there without you ever recognizing them. The complexity and the detail and the beauty and the amazement of it. It's all fucking going down in any direction you look. So don't be tunnel vision,